got introduced. I don't know if I introduced her or they walked up to each other. I can't even remember at this point. Okay. But I just know that she knew who he was because of his books.
And that was a Preparing a People event?
That was a Preparing a People event, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they just started chatting, and everything you've heard is... And let me back up just a minute because this is important. Yeah. When she was in there, that police station that day, and she was talking to whoever that officer was, she was telling him the things that I'm sure she thought were important, which was, he's cheating on me. This is a domestic, dispute. She said she knew how to handle the police, so she just knew that they would get involved at a certain point and wouldn't care about certain things, Anyway, I was listening. I probably had that conversation later, but anyway, she's talking to them and she's telling them all about him, committing adultery or whatever, cheating on her in California, something about some women, I don't know. So I said to her, he says to her, well, do you have proof that he's cheating on you? And she said, yeah. And so he didn't ask her to provide the information. Yeah. I later said to her, I was like, do you have that information? She's like, no.
Why do you think she was doing that? I mean, if you had to guess, accusing him of...
She was trying to me, because of this idea she had that Charles was this Ned Snyder, right? Okay, yeah. That she was going to do everything she could to paint a picture that he was bad, but nobody would probably believe that he was Ned Snyder. So my guess is she's trying to look like he's really a bad person. That's what I'm seeing, is like she's creating this monster to make him look like a monster, which he absolutely wasn't. Okay. And so she's trying to make it legitimate, I think. She's trying to make it legitimate, look like he was just a bad person, so that she would have a reason to leave him or whatever she was going to do, which, holy cow, who knows what she would get into. But anyway, trying to be as accurate as possible. So back to
that Ned Schneider, when was the first time you heard the Ned Schneider?
So it was in January sometime.
Okay.
Yeah, and she was on the phone with Chad.
Okay.
And I was in her house. And I remember even just like where she was when she told me, how you remember the spots. I remember she was like in her back door coming in now. She went out and talked to him probably outside, and I wasn't listening to that, but then she came back in and I knew she was talking to him, and so she was kind of going back and forth, and then she got off the phone and told me about him and told me what Chad said, which was he became this Ned Snyder person. That was in January before the 31st, because I know by then he already knew, right, which amazed that she told him. That's crazy.
Any other names that she referred to Charles by?
Yeah. So the first one was Ned, and then the second was Garrett, something like that.
Okay.
I believe the third one was Eblos, which Eblos was different because Eblos was supposed to be a combination of evil spirits. So it was just like a dark spirits together. That third host club that never came, that was like that group.
But that, we call it Hiplos or Hiplos.
Yeah, because that's how it looks like it's spelled.
Eblos, that's how she would say it, Eblos.
Eblos?
Yeah.
Okay, but that is spelled Hiplos.
Yes, yeah.
But that was a specific name. You knew that to be a specific name in referring to Charles.
Yes.
Okay.
Don. So if she totally believed it, I'm not sure, but I would guess at least most of her believed it. And so she believed that Charles was gone. He was already gone. So she was treating him like he was Ned Snyder. Okay. At least that's what I got an impression. I don't know. I mean, my guess is how much did she believe it? Like I said on TV, if Chad's a Satan, he's a good one. So there was some doubt, right? There was some little doubt, which everybody doubted it. But anyway. So Ned was first this dark, unclean spirit that took over his body, so he was just referred to as Ned in the beginning.
Okay.
But then, I don't remember when, but at some point they were like, They're just called zombies.
Okay.
And so then they had these ideas about zombies. She said she had a dream once that an earthquake happened in Utah. And so the people that fell on the earth, if they were able to get rid of all the zombies in the world, then those zombies wouldn't get into those dead bodies and come back, kind of idea. And so what she talked to her, what I saw her do, she would just do like a priesthood thing, where she had the priesthood power. She thought she had the patriarchal priesthood.
Okay.
Chad always told her she had all these powers. Anyway, and she would say, I remember one time she took a map and she's like, okay, here's the United States. We're going to do a prayer. Let's find out how many zombies are in Arizona. Okay, there's 20,000, whatever, or 10. I don't even remember the numbers. It was so out there. And then she'd say a little prayer, whatever words she'd come up with that she thought were powerful. And then he would check, oh, somebody died. Look, you can go find out. Well, he'd say that later to David, but anyway. So then that was her way. In my opinion, what I saw, at least, was just through a prayer that these people would pass away.
And so the people are actually living beings.
Yeah, so there would be like, everybody, let's say this police station, they're all alive. And so let's say they would check and they say, oh, there's 10 zombies in the building, right? They say something like that. And then they'd do a prayer. And then they would say, oh, according to his little pendulum or whatever, oh, it looks like out of the 20,000 that were in Arizona, yesterday we found out there was 10,000 people that died, or there's only 500 left. You come up with something.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And so they actually suffered a physical death?
Yeah.
So
they would just die. Their spirit would leave.
In that example, the 10 people here at the
so
police
those people would be dead in the morning.
10 people would be dead in the morning.
Yeah, just by their prayer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So about Chad's truck, or not Chad's, Charles's truck at the airport?
I heard that it was at the airport. She told me that Alex drove it to the airport.
This would have been in January when
he flew out of town.
He went out
of town,
right.
And then he went to the airport, dropped his truck off like she said he always dropped it off.
Yes.
And then Alex came to get it, and then they put it somewhere. I think, okay, we'll go back to that because you're talking about where different places she could go, yeah.
So Alex recovered it?
Yes.
And is that where you guys put his clothes to, Charles's clothes?
No, so let me try to remember the best. This
Okay.
is a little, I don't remember all the details because they were crazy and rushy, but at some point, let's see, I went over to her house and I saw her box up his clothes. So she had a box that she put his clothes in. She put one in the storage, like back behind food storage.
Okay.
And then she took another one to DI or Goodwill, and she dropped it off at Goodwill. And then she was going through some paperwork up in the office, looking for passports and important documents and something about a computer, but I can't remember if she kept it or did.
Charles's computer.
Yeah, I don't remember what she did with it. Did she take it? I don't remember if she took it, but I remember something about a computer, Charles's computer, and about money being transferred and things like that. And at some point, she wanted me to follow her. She was going to put the truck somewhere else. I'm trying to remember the details of this. So she drives it to a hotel in Gilbert, and she just parks it there. I don't think she was staying there.
After you went to Gilbert PD.
I think it was before. I think it was before. Whenever, well, because let me just. Okay, it was before. This is how I got to remember events. So what happens? So anyway, she parks it there. I don't hear from her. She takes JJ to school, drops him off. Charles steals her purse. Anyway, I text her the next morning, something about how you doing or where are you, what, something. I don't remember what I said. And he has her phone.
Yes.
And he said something like, hey, come to the house, bring the truck. I'm like, what? And then he said something like, the truck's over at your husband's office. And I'm thinking, this doesn't sound right. It's not. And I'm thinking, she lost her Fruit Loops or what? I'm not sure at this point. And it's something about getting the keys. I'm like, I don't have the keys. And then he doesn't know that. So he's trying to get me to help him find his truck. And I'm like, I don't know, So anyway, I ended up going over there, and her car's not there. And I come in, and two guys are like doing the locks because he busted the door down. And he goes, "Hi, Melanie." I'm like, "Hi, Charles." And I'm like, "Where's Lori? She's not here, is she?" "No, she's not here." I'm like, "Oh man." And so she's like, "Hey, come here, I gotta talk to you." And I was like, "Oh man, it was so uncomfortable. Oh my gosh." Now I look back, I'm like, oh, my heart breaks for Charles. He was so caring and I'm so worried about her. She's lost her. She thinks she's some trans-legged being that was married to Moroni, and she thinks I'm this Ted, he called Ted Snyder guy, and I'm like,
so he referred to it as Ted?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay.
And so I'm like this. This is so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh man, I don't know what to say. Oh man, it was bad.
Did you tell him about the truck, or had you guys not removed it, or?
I don't even know if we talked about the truck.
Okay.
He got his truck back, but I'm trying to remember now. You know what?
It would have been after the Gilbert visit.
Probably. So this was neat. This was really interesting. So anyway, I gave him a hug goodbye, and I didn't say much. I was dumbfounded pretty much. Anyway, so I leave, and I'm driving down the street. I called Chad because I knew that she was connected to it. And I was like, "Do you know where Lori is?" He's like, "I don't know." He acted like he was clueless. Like he thought that I didn't know anything because she wasn't supposed to tell me anything.
Oh.
Yeah. This was all supposed to be between her and him. But luckily she spilled it so I can share it in the future to everybody.
Right.
But she was not one that could keep a secret, I think.